thought in writing or scripting
Yeah.
message.
Yeah. There's a lot of seemingly looking legitimate stuff out there that's still legitimate, but
What was the thing that took down Equifax? Was somebody had left an admin password with password?
or
Yes.
unencrypted S3 bucket, yeah. Or unsecured HVAC systems, or
Yeah, God.
you name it. Yeah.
That's what they target, right?
Actually, you you could probably speak to the IoT aspects of that.
Yeah,
Mario?
they do target that now with the IoT and everything putting out data. One of specifically industrial control systems, what they try to do is the big problem isn't so much network enterprise security, because that's kind of been tackled. Traditional IT security, it's kind of been, you have your network monitors, you have everything, and it's really just upkeep and but industrial control systems is a little bit different now, because those systems were initially built to stand alone and run. Just like you mentioned, you were a mechanic, right? A car engine is not supposed to be connected to the internet, but now these things are being connected to the internet, and they weren't built with security in mind. Like, oh, when somebody hacks your engine, there's no, what do you do now? So.
Interesting novel about David Balducci, where a hacker got a hold of the president's limo.
Yeah.
Hacked into it, was driving the car.
Clearly intended to be, fiction, but not that far from the truth anymore.
But it's not that far from the truth.
Not that far from the
Actually,
truth.
one of the biggest areas of concern are medical devices. Former Vice President Dick Cheney was actually under some sort of alert because his pacemaker was sending data wirelessly.
Yeah.
And if
I
that
remember
could,
that.
not that they would have not that someone would attack his pacemaker to disable it, but if he was in distress, but it was hacked to send data, everything's all right, and he's in distress, medical facilities wouldn't know it, that he was dying, because his pacemaker is reporting everything's all right. Same in the airline industry, same in the car industry. If someone takes control of your brakes, or lets you know, your engine, your landing gear or something has so much wear and tear on it, but the data is reporting that it's all right. That's a problem, and people are going after that now.
What you're fundamentally talking about, though, is the fact that you mentioned it already. These systems were not built with security in mind, but more than that, they're not built with the ability to apply security to them. So effectively, what you've got is you have to look for anomalous behavior.
You have to look
That's
for anomalous
really the
behavior.
only thing you've got.
And
I have no all these redundancies in the very
Yeah.
nature of there being a redundant thing that is saying that it's got a failure.
That's right.
Calls the whole thing into question and potentially could kill it.
You look for anomalous behavior. It's true, and airline is actually a better analogy, or actually it's truly an industrial control system.
Yeah,
It's really not a flying data center. It's a great analogy, but it's really an industrial control system. And what you're looking for is behavior that you would not expect. So you would not expect that somebody would connect the maintenance device to an aircraft while it's in flight.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, that would be something you would want to know about immediately. Yeah.
Just remember, I know it's old, but just at Y2K, that they were worrying even about elevators.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we are recording this. We do for students who can't make it. So,
Great.
it would be the first time.
Oh man.
And so
Actually,
they ask
I do, because I do that quite often.
Did they record that?
Because I'm a professional that's not a professional, so my board meeting, I think.
You got a little passion in you?
For the record, these are not hired actors.
Right. We actually do this for a living.
water.
All right, thank you.
My communications.
Yeah.
I had a board meeting earlier. She's like, you can't use this script. It has fuck in here like 35 times. It's like, this is a board meeting. You've got shareholders on it. It doesn't work like that. Elon just smoked weed on camera. Like, I can do whatever I want.
Why can't I say that?
Start up. I'm going to keep running it like that regardless how big it gets. We're in seven countries just still.
To me, the cryptocurrency aspects are interesting. The identity aspects of
with,
blockchain are interesting as well.
Yeah,
With the
and,
government
yeah.
The
security.
potential for
You're running into issues.
a global immutable identity, though.
That's a tough one to crack.
Bridging
Because
frameworks.
it's changing and it's immutable.
Like your traditional
So,
IT systems, government
if
systems.
somebody
and
does
everything
something wrong,
with them
but,
trying to
you know,
use
but
like
they pay
Internet
for
of
it,
Things
or
now.
they recognize it or whatever.
Identity is still identity, though.
The agency's
True.
assessing.
True,
are
but
probably
then it calls into question the
behind
greater impacts
some
of the
those
justice
things,
system.
but
and
they
the
might
purpose of
have
the justice system.
instances.
Are they
where
marked
Yeah, it's
for
interesting
death
you would
immediately?
attach identity to the justice system. I was thinking identity in terms of
challenges in that area.
the cybersecurity aspects of identity.
Cybersecurity aspect is
Commercial
fine.
probably
Yeah,
leads,
that
and
part's
then
pretty easy.
something is viable and used by a lot of people.
Well, for sure.
Actually,
Well,
so the tax
Being a,
element is
me being a federal contractor,
arguably one of the most
I haven't.
obvious and easiest problems to solve.
I've been around the guys who do
and
this,
this is
the
what-
CNA and all
And for
stuff
the
like
record, I
that.
have a lobbying.
But I've never done it myself. Like I've never gone through the FISMA checklist or anything like that.
The irony is that everybody's all scared
So,
about money
I just kind of go off of like the public
You can actually
perception of
build this
government as like
into
the
the
wavy
fundamental
hand.
currency that it pays
That's not
a
just
dividend
perception.
and royalty to pay taxes.
There's some,
Like
you know,
the minute you do that, you're
things that
done.
we're doing like at first to market to,
eliminate the IRS.
you know,
Oh,
consult on
absolutely. But what's wrong with that?
implementing
Nothing. I'm not arguing against it.
But we can build in.
By a show of hands, who wants to argue against that?
you know, just sort of breaking into that,
The waste.
holding our hands.
Will you eliminate the ability to do money laundering at all?
Industry
And money
implements
laundering goes
new
away.
ideas.
Exactly.
There's no such
How
thing.
can we
And taxation.
support the federal government?
Real measurable KPIs.
It's sort of like, okay, you've got to
You can do all
sell them on a need.
And do you focus more on,
build in
like,
securities laws.
civilian agencies
Like
or
from the SEC,
DOD?
the FTC.
all of it?
I mean, you can build that in.
I'm on a
But I think the
executive
thing that
branch and
in
DOD audit lead, and then
you guys probably going to be
we're
most
also
interested in
just looking like I was on a legislative branch project as well, but another manager took that over, so I
not
could
quite
do
finalized.
stuff that was new this year. That
On the other side,
this is their first
non-fungible
year.
tokens.
The whole
Too many control solutions.
audit.
Hi, everybody.
Non-fungible.
Good afternoon. How's everybody?
Man, sounds the same.
It's going to be a fun panel.
They're already at it.
How's everybody doing today? My name is Carrie Willigan. I'm the Director of Career Services for the School of Business, and we're thrilled to have you here. I see some familiar faces, so I know that some of you have been other professionals. This is our second full event. This is our ISOM event. We have Professor Singer here is going to be our moderator. We have a really interesting panel here. As I've said before, they're not here to talk to me. They're here to talk to you. So ask them good questions. The panel will last about an hour, and then we'll have some time for networking and to eat some more of the delicious food. Please don't leave too much, because otherwise Taylor takes it home with them, and we want to make sure you guys get to eat. If I could just ask you to please turn off your phones while we're, so the phone doesn't ring, we appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it over to Professor Singer.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We have a great panel. We've been drawn already out of different careers. So I'm sure it's going to be an exciting time. I really am. Looking forward to the discussion. So everybody here on the dais will be introduced. They're going to give a little talk about who they are, what they do. And then after that's all done, we'll open the floor up for discussion, questions from you. Because that's the whole point of this Ask a Professional, the entire series, in fact, is to help you learn about the workplace environment, skills needed, etc. Okay? Sounds good. Might as well get started. Trevor Williams is on the far right. I'll start from right to left.
All right.
Looking at it this way.
So I'm Terry Williams. I'm a IT senior consultant with Carney & Company, a CPA firm based in Alexandria. Basically, I came from George Mason. I completed 2 degrees here, and undergrad and graduate. So, I know, you know, the time that I spent here was valuable because I, you know, took value out of the teachers, out of the faculty, the people that were available to help. So, you know, I just encourage you guys to do the same. I'm grateful to be on such a esteemed panel with you know, a lot of very smart tech minds. I'm thankful for, you know, the faculty and for you guys to coming and being available.
I'm Mario Ayala. I work for Bay First Solutions Incorporated. I am a government contract with focus area of program and project management support in the areas of cybersecurity, specifically in the area of industrial control systems, cyber physical systems, and the Internet of Things. I graduated with an ISOM degree from George Mason University. I actually had Professor Singer. So, you know, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be here. Very thankful to Julianne and Carrie for inviting me, and just happy to be here and share the panel with these colleagues.
Bill Walsh is next.
All right.
Take the whole mic.
I'm going to use the mic because I don't have quite the speaking voice the rest of these gentlemen do. So I'm Will Walsh. I'm with Southwest Airlines. I'm a senior manager there in our cybersecurity group. I've been in the technology business for a little over 20 years, done a little bit of everything. And, you know, I think I would tell you that probably the thing that's helped me the most has just been curiosity, right? The willingness and to take risks and follow things I was interested in. I'll turn it over to John.
Hey everybody, I'm John Wise. Oh, this one's not even on. Oh, you're going to give me the mic? All right, thanks. Hey everybody, I'm John Wise. I'm the CEO and founder of Loki, also co-founder of the Digital Asset Trade Association, which is a cryptocurrency lobbying and trade association in and outside of this country. In addition to that, I'm a subject matter expert around cryptocurrency and blockchain for a handful of government agencies, both in and outside of the U.S. I've been a part of things like GDPR, the World Economic Forum, and a number of other stuff. I have worked for a bunch of other people before, but for the most part, I've been self-employed, going on my 20th year now of being self-employed, actually. I started my first company when I was 12 and continued to grow from there. Yeah, I mean, I can go into what Loki does, but that's a longer speech.
Okay, very good. I guess now it's time for some questions. Now, understand that gentlemen here, professionals that they are, federal contractors and subject matter experts.
Giving us too much credit, calling us professionals. At least me. The rest of these guys are professional. But.
Well, I'm from your environment too, guys. I really am. I started out 12 years at SAIC, came here, faculty, and I'm still a consultant employee at Leidos. So, this is for your benefit to ask them questions like, for example, what skills, you're self-employed, the others work for companies, what skills are they looking for in employees, and what skills, not just coursework I'm talking about, skills beyond that. Okay? So, please, you must have questions, ask them. Don't be worried that there's a silly question. Please stand up, address.
How you doing? I'm Steve. I just want to know, since you're all like very far into your careers, how did you guys get started? What type of entry-level positions did you guys go into, and did you see yourself trying to move up from there or trying to go a different route?
Got a less than standard one, so you guys go ahead.
You know, I think that part of that, you know, my experience was being willing to seize the opportunity when it presented itself. You know, being willing to be curious, let people know around you about your curiosity. I would encourage you, like and I love that Dr. Singer talked about this. Right, the coursework that you're doing is sort of like the minimum bar, and it's. You know, when I'm looking at, you know, hiring individuals like yourselves straight out of college, what I'm looking for is like, what did you do to differentiate yourself? What were the other things you were interested in? Where's your passion? How did that passion lead you somewhere to do something that was unique for you? And then, I'm looking at a number of other things. I'll talk more about those a little bit later. Coming from Southwest Airlines, culture is huge for us, and that's what I'll talk to you about a little bit more. But for me, it was being willing to just follow my passion and let people know around me what I was passionate about.
Biggest thing I can say is fail early, fail often, fail fast. Do stuff. Don't wait for anybody. Don't wait for permission. Don't ask for permission. Just go and do it. Okay. The best thing, certainly for me, hiring people, I don't know how many people I have employed. I guess probably through all the businesses, maybe 1,500, somewhere around there. But the biggest thing that I look for is that they've gone through something, that they've actually gone through step by step. They found a problem, and they worked their butts off to get through that solution. Most of the time, I don't care about a resume. The resume, for somebody, anybody in an executive role, the resume is going to be through HR. That's literally, you know what? I'll ask the question. How many people in here think that a resume is to get you a job? Okay. A resume is not going to get you a job. A resume's sole purpose is to get you an interview. Okay? Talking with the people. You're interviewing the company every bit as much as they are interviewing you. The only purpose of a resume is to get you an interview and get you a discussion. It's much more important for you to get a good feel and vice versa. And so that interview, that's the only thing that's going to get you a job. The experience and all that stuff, okay, just meet the bar, just getting past that, but going through and having a different take, a different perspective, an objective view, and really pushing yourself to challenge the status quo and to challenge how to solve problems. That's what everybody wants. That's what any employer is going to want.
So touching on your question, you mentioned in your question, you stated that you guys are pretty far along in your careers. One piece of advice that I would give to undergraduates or soon-to-be graduates is don't. I believe that a lot of opportunities are you pass them by because you're trying to get to that one job title, to that one, this is what makes me successful. This is what up here, for example, to get to my position, it's I have 13 years of experience. John has 20. It takes a lot. So my advice to you would be, don't forego opportunities trying to get to the one job. Take that analyst position, take that administrative position. What you're looking to do is invest in yourself and put yourself in a position where at some point in your career you go from doing the work to delivering value, and that doesn't come with just tying your career to a job title. The job title will be there. You can be a director, vice president, CEO. Those things come, but first you have to roll up your sleeves. You have to really get in there, and I don't like to call it grunt work, but it's what it is. You really have to go in there and learn your business. For example, John, in his biography said he was a mechanic. Working on cars led him to develop an expertise in his field, and now he's a multinational CEO. Very impressive. So he didn't focus on the title. He focused on doing what I love doing. Getting in there, learning my craft, and then turning that into a career. So
yeah. Actually, if I can opine on that. So yes, I've got 20 years of experience, but the thing that I've learned, the older I get. And I'm not that old, but the older I get, the more I realize that I had no concept of how something earlier in my life would have properly prepared me for something now. Never in my life would I have thought that being a good mechanic would have made me a good problem solver for software and development, or that being able to do interviews from racing or anything along those lines would get me prepared for being an executive in any industry, or the traveling and transport or logistics. These are things that you never would think about. And to be clear, I'm on my 4th career or something now, completely different fields. I started as a mechanic. I went into engineering. I got into avionics at one point. I then got into real estate investments, and all the while I was working on the patents and stuff that I'm working in now. You have no concept, you have no possible understanding. It doesn't matter how smart, how well prepared you are, of how life is going to prepare you for something later. So don't be scared. Go and do it. If it excites you, if you're passionate about it, if it challenges you, do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I think I'd like a couple things that John said there. And in fact, a little bit earlier, sorry, Terry.
Sorry.
One of them was you're not just interviewing for a job. You're actually interviewing your future boss. You're looking at the company. Is this really where I want to work? Is this the company that's going to allow me to follow my passions, follow my dreams? And then I think being open to the idea of maybe it's not a company, maybe it's I want to work for myself, or and then I also like the fact that John mentioned failure, because we never learn as much as we do when we fail, and so many of us are afraid to experience that failure that we don't ever try. And then you don't know what you missed, right? What did you lose by trying? You found one thing that didn't work, or maybe you found something that did work. But if you don't try, you'll never know.
So,
Terry's got a mic.
So, I really admire all these experiences, and I hope you're taking this in. I echo all of what they said in my effort to, as Mario said, add value. I'll tell sort of my path getting started. I actually, in undergrad, took courses that were tailored toward internship. I had 3 internships while I was at Mason, and the last one sort of I felt like it was a fit, and I felt like it was somewhere I could grow, as they were saying. So, just sort of taking those chances and saying, okay, well, there's experiences that you're going to get out of something, but is that somewhere where you feel like you're going to in 2 years say, all right, this is for me, or this, I can tolerate it, but it's just something else is out there for me. So that's what I'd say started me on the path, just making sure I was engaged while I was over the summer, not making as much money, but just making sure I was going towards what the future was, and everybody has to know their value. So when you're in college, what's the goal? To get a good job. It's the same as if you were an athlete going for the NFL contract or something like that. Your goal is to achieve some goal. So that's just my thoughts on it.
So to stick a bow on it, one thing a lot of people, especially students, seem to neglect to realize or keep objective is that if you failed at something that you tried, within a resume or an interview, or frankly dealing with anybody in life, you have a major advantage. You can just omit it. As long as you haven't killed somebody, killed yourself, or anything else along those lines, you can just not put that on a resume and be totally fine. Very, very, very rarely do employers ask, oh, what happened with this gap of 6 months? Nobody cares. It's okay. Go and try something. Break something. It doesn't really matter.
I think the good ones too, right? I mean, the people you want to work for, they want to hear about those failures. Yeah. And they want to know, what did you learn? Because that was truly your opportunity. You learned very little from being successful. You learned, oh, great, that worked. But you learn a whole heck of a lot from what didn't work. What did I try that was unsuccessful, and why was it unsuccessful? And then did I persist? Did I pursue it? Did I give it really my all? Because sometimes what you learn is, wow, I was really, only half in, really lukewarm on that one.
If I can just throw something in here. You talked about the resume and interviewing the bosses in the company. That's really true. The cover letter of the resume is just to get you in. My experience, you're going to be asked as you are introduced to people, do you have questions? You should have questions. So it's not like class where a professor says, do you have a question about the material? Nobody speaks up.
Yeah.
You're actually being judged on your questions. Not necessarily how good the question is, but just the very fact that you're inquisitive, that you know something about the company. It's easy nowadays to look up a company on the internet. When I was interviewing for a job decades ago, I had to go up to the library and read Prospecti and right. Have a question.
Especially a company's partners or investors or things along those lines. Published material, why not, right? See how to challenge somebody.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I mean, one of the things we look for is like, why are you here? Why are you talking to us? Why Southwest? Why is this the place you want to work? And the way you process that, the thought process you went through, it's going to tell us either you're aligned with why we're here doing business or you're not, and this isn't the right place for you.
I mean, my program manager, when I was interviewing with him before I was hired, I actually asked him what his background was.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he went to school, what's he doing, what's keeping him at SAIC.
Yeah, you're interviewing him as much as he's interviewing you.
That was
Yeah.
the point. Yes. More questions. That was just from one question.
Hi, Mr. I have a question. Do you have an internship opportunity for undergrad students?
So, for Bayfirst, currently, I believe an internship program is being developed. At the moment, we do not. However, we are very interested in obtaining young talent, when they graduate, come in. Bayfirst is the type of company that, when you show up, we try to groom you. We try to, have you understand what I like to call core ethics of business, operate with integrity, operate with honesty, trustworthiness, respect, so they'll take like a junior employee and train them to be, a respected consultant. So as far as internships are concerned, I'm not aware of a program at this time. However, I can give you my contact information and I can follow up on that information for you and just run it down to make sure that if there is something, I can provide you that information. Okay?
Can I ask a question before you start, Will? Terry, you mentioned your internships. Can you talk to the value of an internship going up for interviewing?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you learn just being in a professional setting enough is communicating professionally, email, etiquette, and just the general tone of, it's just different than, when you're in class or when you're emailing your professor. It's just, it's got a different beat.
Oh.
Let you join.
Oh, and I can. I'm sorry, Terry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Oh, so, was there, I guess, additional points on?
Well, I think Will wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I could tell you about Southwest's intern program. We have actually one of the most highly ranked internship programs in the nation. You come and join a pretty high-powered team. You'll deliver on a project, as well as you will work with one of many possible technology teams, cybersecurity, my group being one of them. And then you get flight privileges while you're there. One of my team members who was an intern is now part of my team. Went to like 40 different places while he was there. I don't know how he did that logistically. He's got them mapped out in all the routes. It's ridiculous. He must have traveled every night. I don't know what he was doing, but so he had a really great time. And I would tell you, it's a chance to also figure out if this is the right company for you. So I would encourage you, use internships to figure out what you do and don't like about companies, because you probably haven't had that experience yet working in an enterprise organization to help them deliver on major initiatives. And that's what you're going to do when you enter the workplace. And that internship is an opportunity to figure out the different cultures that companies have, and the different values that companies have. Those are very, very important things, by the way, and things that you may not have been considering. You've probably been thinking about like the technical aspects of the day-to-day job and not so much what it was going to be like to work on a team and what your leaders were going to treat you like. And so those cultural aspects of different companies are important as well. So I would encourage you to think about those. At Southwest, we have a very specific culture. We have a very specific type of employee that we look for. We have 3 core values. They actually map to a Patrick Lencioni book called The Ideal Team Player. And I'll tell you a little bit about that because it's one of the things I'm looking for when I do interviews and I'm looking for potential candidates. Those 3 characteristics are humble, which is pretty obvious. Everybody knows what humility is. Hunger, which is this drive to learn more things. And then the third one is smart, but it's not what you think it is. It's not book smart. It's actually people smart. So these are the individuals who can sit in a room and look around the room and understand how people are feeling based upon their facial expressions and those types of things. So I'm looking more at that type of stuff than I am what your resume says. Kind of to John's point earlier, right? The resume gets you the interview, but the interview gets you the job. And I'm not actually looking very much at the technical skills you may or may not have at this point, because somebody who is humble, hungry, and smart can learn to do anything. And so I'm looking for somebody who has that drive to do that.
I'll go back, I guess, to your question. I think it was specifically for Mario, but in general, so Kearney does have an intern program, and we get students from all over the area. It goes over, I believe, 12 weeks, something like that. Kearney's culture is stressed in it as they allow you to be on projects, get involved in actual federal government work. You get a clearance and you're on site working with the team to do an audit or to do some consulting work. But I'll get a little more into like what IT audit is, but they also stress the culture through the community service aspect of the internship, where you would team up with the other interns and seek to have a goal of some level of, basically you're competing against other intern teams to have the highest contributions across the organization and throwing events. A lot of happy hours and that kind of thing. So, but it's a good time, and it's a very good internship from what I've heard from folks, and we've offered a lot from our internship to new hire program.
If you want to know more about Southwest internship program, I would encourage you come talk to Adarsh Pradeep, who's up here at the front. He actually went to school here at George Mason, is an alum and works at Southwest and went through Southwest internship program. Specifically, he picked it out and then ended up joining our team.
If I can take a time out here, Delora Parks has arrived and has joined the panel and seated at the dais. So I turn the floor over to you, Delora, to introduce yourself, say a few words, please.
Taking it out. Okay. First off, my major apologies for being late. Please note this does not reflect on the company. This is reflecting on me. So thank you all for joining, and thank you for bearing with me as I'm coming in a little halfway through the session. So my name is Delora Parks. I'm a senior consultant with CGI Federal. For the past 12 years or so, I've been working on federal contracts specifically relating to the Medicare and Medicaid services. So I've done the full gamut of business analyst types of roles. I started off doing quality assurance. I got some specialization in doing Section 508 testing, which is a niche market regarding federal contracting. I do requirements, gathering, optimization. At the moment, I'm a project manager for one of our IT service help desks for one of our federal clients. So I'm doing a full gamut of project management services, including financing, budgeting, staffing requirements, forecasting, and then client relations.
Thank you, Laura. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Questions? Please.
Yeah, what technical skills, if any, do you guys think would be most valuable for us to attain, like, before graduating?
Did you say technical?
skills.
Technical stuff.
For what field? I mean, what industry field?
Maybe in, like, data analyst, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few data people here. From a big data perspective, from a like there's a lot of broadness there, but from an entrepreneur's perspective, I think the best way that I can answer that is where technology is heading. I'm a bit biased. I certainly wouldn't think it'd be a bad idea to learn about things like blockchain or big data analytics. Learning systems like AWS, any database management systems, and I think overall take some courses or learn about systems engineering overall. It doesn't matter if it's an economic system, it's a financial system, if it's a software system, if it's a logistics system. Systems engineering is profound through all of it.
Yeah, I think to me the thing I'm looking for is what are your thought processes? How do you synthesize data? How do you make it tell you the story? And so less about the tools, although there are some in that space. There are some very, very specific tools you'll want to know. But less about those. I'm looking for, like, how do you synthesize the data? How do you tell a story with it? How do you drive decisions, business decisions with that data? And so what I would encourage you to do is find something that you're passionate about around you, find something you're interested in, and go figure out the data and figure out what it tells you about it so that you can demonstrate that thought process to that prospective interviewer.
So I find those interesting answers. I'm actually working on my master's in data analytics here at George Mason right now because I found it to be a gap in my skill set. So I think that what you're saying absolutely echoes my career path so far. In addition, I'd say, I know ISOM is a little bit of a soft skills degree, but I'd say try to bulk up your SQL knowledge. I also found that to be a little bit of a gap when I joined the workforce, and having strong SQL skills is going to take you pretty far.
So for federal government, I'd agree with Will on the majority of what he's saying, that we're not expecting you to come in and be the best coder, be the best this or that in any specific area, but for federal government, we are selling services to the government. So what we're looking for is a lot of times a certification or some demonstration that you have a level of knowledge commensurate with what the client is looking for. A lot of times with audit, you're trying to get an understanding of the client's infrastructure of their environment. So, sometimes I'll get on the audit and I'll know, general areas, but I've got to do my own research when I get there to get up to speed of what they're discussing, or if they're telling me about this new tool that they've implemented to improve security, I'm going to Google. I'm finding a way to get ahead of that. I might have to call somebody that works at that at the Palo to sort of walk me through. Okay, this new firewall, this new traps. What is the how do you implement it? What's some of the pitfalls? So that's sort of what I'd say. Getting certification is probably the quickest way to for federal specific, but having that understanding that you're not going to know everything, even at my level. Like I come in and I'm going to have to understand that momentum is different in this organization than in the last one I went to. So there's always those things to think about.
And just to get you started, entry level positions. If you're going into a technical career path, you want to go usually entry level would be like help desk tier 1, or systems administrator, entry level tier 1. Good certifications for that would be, for example, like your Network Plus from CompTIA, or your Security Plus, also from CompTIA. These are entry level industry certifications that they're high level certifications, so they don't go into deep technical knowledge, but what they serve as are differentiators. So you have your you get your ISOM degree, and now you get a technical position. Your employer, what is setting you apart from your competitor? Oh, well, this person has a Network Plus certification. That doesn't mean that they're an expert. That means that they have the fundamental knowledge to come in and hit the ground running and get to work, because I don't need to explain to them what a firewall is or what security protocol is. If you are pursuing the management path, a good one is you won't have the work experience, but the PMP, the Project Management Professional Certification, you won't have the work experience yet, because I think you need like 7 years. However, there's one that an entry-level one. It's called the CAPM. I think it's a Certified Associate of Project Management. You can pursue that one. I believe you just need your high school, and you need a certain amount of project areas of project experience or work experience, which you can actually obtain. Credits, experience credits from one of the courses here. I believe it's OM 492, the Management of Technical Projects. That coursework will give you. I don't know how many hours of experience towards it, but it will count towards it. So that is also a differentiating one, that coming into like a consultant role or a management role would be good as you build experience to getting your PMP. Those are examples of certifications. One note of certification, though. Certifications do take time, and they do cost money. So I would not pursue certifications that you are not interested in going down that path. Like, for example, if you have no intention of becoming a network engineer, then I would not pursue a CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Administrators. I would not pursue that if you're not interested. The trail of certifications behind a person's name, it only means something if you're actually doing that. I add no value having a systems engineering degree if I'm not a systems engineering certification if I don't do that. So I would be cautious of that. But Network Plus, Security Plus, CAPM, PMP are industry certifications that you could think about.
Here's a common theme I hope you're picking up on the conversation here. The work that you're doing right now, the degrees that you're getting, the studies that you're doing, you're building a foundation for a life of learning. And that is critically important, because this is just the foundation. You're going to continue throughout your lives to keep learning, trying new things, experimenting in different areas. I wasn't doing this job 2 years ago. I won't be doing this job 2 years from now. I'll be doing something different. Same thing goes for the people on my team, I hope, and same thing goes for the people I work with. We have the privileged opportunity to try different things and experiment and find out what works for us, which is part of what makes Southwest a great place to work. But that is not limited by your employer. That's only limited by your desire to do something different and explore new horizons. So I would encourage you, think of this as building a foundation for learning, for good skills around learning, and a passion for that, and keep that up over time.
So one thing I'd like to chime in on, most of the people up here have been talking about the certifications in the federal side, and that is definitely a path, especially considering that we're in the D.C. area. I absolutely couldn't care less about what sort of certifications or background or any of that. I don't care, and I don't think anybody in our company cares. The government and whether it be federal, whether it be local, whatever, they have this to be able to, well, in many respects, get I don't know how to say it other than covering their own ass, and in a lot of ways. I mean, they need to make sure. Yeah, I told him to punch me if I curse. I curse a lot. in a lot of ways, they need to be sure that people don't slip through the cracks, and that's great. There's a whole world of entrepreneurs and startups and other businesses and just going and chasing after things. And I would go more towards Will's thing. What was it? Humble, hungry, and smart. Yeah, the hunger one is probably the biggest one for me. I mean, work ethic in general. Just I want hustlers, and I want people that are going to be there, that are going to be part of the family for a long time, because there are plenty of roles and places that they can move into. And in fact, of all of my staff, I don't think there's a single employee that is in the same position today that they were in last year. I don't think a single one. That's what we want. We want people to grow, to push us, to grow the entire business, to challenge even me and everybody else. That's what we want. The certifications for me, I don't care.
If I can interject here, I'm not part of the panel, but based on my professional experience, one skill that's important is all technical people that these all are. One thing that I've encountered is that after you get your work done, you have to communicate your technical results. Usually, write them up, or just give a briefing. Write PowerPoints, got to make all the points. Writing, whether it's progress reports, or status reports, or after-action reports, emails to your customer, email to your superiors, your writing does count. You're judged by that. Yeah. So I would say before you send an email, read it. Practice writing, too. I mean, start letter writing, start any kind of writing to get your points across. When you're taking an exam, you're supposed to write down an answer. Read it all. Take the extra 30 seconds and read it to make sure it's complete. It's not going to get you the job, and it's probably not going to keep you the job, but it is going to get you further along in your career if you can communicate.
Yeah, just on that point, it's not just writing. It's also design. Like there are so many times when having a drawing course or something actually has some real advantage. Like, hey, I had this idea of a way that we could change the product just slightly, or what do you think about this little, drawing, just any depiction, any way of you getting your point across. Another thing, emojis and whatnot are fine, and say Slack or something along those lines. I swear to God, if I get another emoji-filled email, I'm going to lose it. So.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here is the power of communication through every single media type. I think be cognizant of what you're putting out there, because it is your brand image. That is what people are identifying with you. So what is your brand image? How do you want to be perceived? How do you want to be people to think about you? And frankly, one person's perception is their reality.
And don't forget, it's not just your brand that you're representing, especially in the federal space. It's your entire company, your entire project team. Yeah. So tagging on to what Professor Singer said, if you're not confident in your writing abilities, get someone to QA that for you. Run it by your manager, run it by your teammate who's a better writer than you. Don't take it personally. Everyone has different skill sets. None of the workspace is personal. It's, at least in the federal space, it's coming together as a project team, laying on your strengths, and working together to promote your client, not promote you as a person.
Well said, Delora.
Yes, please, ask.
Hi, my name is Wendy Caicedo. Do you guys see a lot of females in the same position you guys are in now? Knowing that ISOM is a high.
Yes, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. It's diversity of thought. So I think everybody brings, kind of like to what Delora was saying, everybody's got different skills.
Just one out of five.
Yeah, to be fair, though, as soon as we got here, we're like, we've got to make sure that there's a woman on this panel. Like,
Yeah.
We actually had even asked to postpone it specifically so it's not out of lack of trying, but they'll all opine on the federal side. I think that has a slightly different perspective than the entrepreneur and startup side. But yeah, I mean, I think we're 50-50 between women and men, and there's absolutely no limitation in role. They're not taking my job, but that's just because it's my company. The bulk of my entrepreneur or startup friends, a lot of them are female founders. I think that's fantastic.
We also have a large number of female leaders, including our CIO, who is fantastic to work for. And I think that it's that diversity of thought. I can't underscore that enough, but it goes way broader than just male or female. It is all cultures, all ethnicities, all races. All of them need to be represented because they all bring something unique to the table.
I'd agree, and to the point of why I know that STEM classes now are there's many more efforts to identify early on that that girls can also do the math and they have the same opportunities, and there might be cultural reasons, just America wide, why they stick to different things more than other places. So I have a daughter, and I'm supporting every time I can get her to do math problems at home, and she's pushes back on that sometimes, but it's a ongoing effort to combat something that's sort of like it's an uphill climb that with years and years ahead of everyone, that it's just a continual effort that you have to put forward. And I'll hand off to the expert.
Hardly the expert. So we do have quite a few females in power at CGI Federal, and the ones that are the most successful are the ones that have a broad mix of skills, both technical and soft skills. And of course, we see that across other genders and, like you said, other ethnicities as well. But don't be afraid to stand out. If you have the technical skills, make sure that people are aware of it. Don't be shy about the fact that you're a coder, or be shy about the fact that these technology stacks. And even if your role doesn't necessarily dictate it at that point in time, those are skills that you don't want to let get stale.
I actually have an example of a female, an empowered female who she was actually my supervisor. My direct supervisor. Her name is Tammy Fisher. She was with Bay First for about 14 years in a similar role, doing program and project management support in cyber physical systems security. And she was in a senior role when I met her at the company. Bay First is most certainly an equal opportunity employer. There are several women in leadership positions. But Tammy, in this case, took the leap and actually formed her own company, Catalina Associates, and she is now the CEO of her own company. So that definitely that's definitely something to take into consideration, is not to be afraid to take the jump. She was empowered by her company, and then she empowered herself to take the next step. So very proud of her. It's an excellent example for young females coming into the workforce, graduating, say, like, hey, look, the hard work really did pay off. I really am the CEO. I really am the boss lady. I think I'd also like to note that I'll be expecting a VP position for that little plug there. Yes, I agree, with the rest of the panelists that we don't see that enough. However, when it does happen, it's something great, you should, like Dolores said, like you should push, you should, push the limit. You should exhibit your skills. You should really, if you have it, show it. So I really encourage you to do that.
So one other thing, just a slightly different perspective, I think, from the startup or entrepreneurial side, is I'm not hiring people specifically to satisfy a diversity requirement ever. I want the best people. That's it. I don't care if they're female, if they're male, what culture they're from. I don't care. I want the best. And that's it. So, it's something that I frequently hear, especially with government contractors and so on and so forth, is they've got requirements. They've got legal requirements to focus on equal opportunity and diversity hires and things along those lines. But the rest of the world just wants the best. Just be really good at whatever you're trying to do. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think John's right on. I mean, I don't have any quotas to meet, and what I'm looking for is the best and most qualified candidate. And so that should be agnostic of any other criteria.
Thank you.
Good question.
Anybody else?
Questions? Come on.
Bueller.
Come on. There you go. Ask it.
Hello, my name is Derwin Davis. I must wanted, are you guys, at your current jobs, are you guys happy at your jobs? And at what point did you realize you were happy? Yes, this is being recorded, so. No. So I think I've sort of told a little bit about my background. Getting into why I like my job, what hit me early on was I'm sitting in the rooms with the CIOs for big agencies. I'm contributing to everybody's life in identifying fraud, waste, and abuse for the federal government. And it might be mundane at sometimes to go through audit reports, writing, rewriting, drafting, making sure your manager likes it, making sure the client likes it, this, that, and the third. But it just, I was able to learn so much in IT because I was in the room. I was getting mentored, and it was a place where I knew I could grow because I was learning technology, and that always interested me. What I like about my job now is that I get to mentor. I get to come to these events and share some thoughts, and also, but mentoring on projects and making. I've had people that I've mentored go up and become managers, become almost to my level, and it's just great to see that that progress of somebody who was like me and just sort of trying to figure things out, getting an understanding of technology and being able to run and being able to go. I do like that aspect of my job, and I get to do at this point. I'm a senior manager, so I'm on multiple things. It's sort of that I get to build my own brand. I'm DOD, legislative, all over the federal government. I get to do recruiting. I get to do business development, and it's something that I'm always going, but it's fulfilling because that busyness and that I feel myself being a hustler and being able to come in the room and change dynamics and do a lot of things. So it's just fun to me to have this career.
I'll be the first to tell you, being a founder is about the worst job you could ever ask. Being a CEO or anything along those lines is horrible. But you don't do a job like this because you enjoy it. You do it because it's your duty, right? You do it because there's nobody else in the world that can do it. And you do it because you're the only one that's able to, that you have this never-ending drive and you feel that you've got to fix something fundamentally wrong with the world or in business, or that people are being harmed or hurt or whatever, and you absolutely have to do it. One thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand about being a founder or a CEO or anything along those lines, they say, oh, they're at the top. You work for yourself. Yeah, you technically work for yourself, but who you actually work for is the shareholders, the customers, the employees, everybody that looks at you on social media, Facebook, TV, anything along those lines. You work for everybody else. You have the most bosses of any role and position in any company. So if you're one of those people that's intrinsically driven and really, really, really feels passionate and strongly about some fundamental issue or problem, that is the role for you. But I'll tell you, it's going to suck. It's going to be really bad, really hard. And another big thing is, the massive corporate CEOs, those are the only guys that are really making the big bucks. Everybody else in the smaller companies, you're the first one that will cut your own salary and cut your own things before anybody loses their job or gets pay cuts or anything along those lines. So, you are your own harshest critic in many respects as well.
So totally different tack, because I can't relate to what John just said, but sounds challenging. I consider myself to be working for probably one of the best companies in the world. And I think of myself as being extremely blessed. And it's one of the reasons that I talk so much about culture, because it is so critically important to your experience at work. And you're going to spend a significant amount of your life at work. And so, I think of the job that I do. I believe in the company. I believe in what we stand for. We practice the golden rule. We treat our employees awesome so that they can treat our customers awesome. And hopefully everybody has heard a great story about Southwest. I've heard 1,000 or 10,000, and I've been there for 11 years, and they just never quit coming. It's awesome. But what I would tell you is, at the end of the day, what it comes down to, and what makes it all worthwhile and makes me go back every single day looking forward to it, is the people. It's the people on my team. It's my peers. It's the people I work with. It's my direct leader, who is awesome. One of the best people I've ever worked for in my life. And it makes me smile, and we have a good time. We work hard, and we have a good time at the same time, so it's pretty great.
Well, I'll be honest, and the first couple of years of my career I thought were really boring. Going through doing quality assurance and document updates, for weeks at a time, and then you switch and do quality assurance and document updates on a different, set of updates. It was a little monotonous. But then, I switched projects and I moved up and I was given more responsibility. And as I progressed in my career, things got more interesting. So, yes, it was some grunt work at the beginning, but the payoff was there. So nobody, well, with the exception of maybe John, nobody works just for the fun of it. You usually work for a paycheck. So with that in mind, expect to be working for a couple of years to get a paycheck, but to move on to bigger and better things. You need to have that initial experience and that initial groundwork to be able to be given more responsibility, to be trusted with client management and strategic direction and business development and all the other aspects of the job that are more fun.
I actually have a comment for the gentleman who asked the question. I actually have a counter question. What do you think? When you eventually get to the stage that what do you think will make you happy at that point in your career?
Well, I know Mr. Walsh, I believe you were the one that was mentioning it, like coming into work, being happy and whatnot. That's exactly what I was looking forward to. I wasn't quite sure. I just switched into this major. I was doing something else before, and when I was doing it, it was kind of it was very stressful all the time. It was one of those things where I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be for me. That's why I was asking the question so much. At what point in your life, when you're going through your career, are you very happy that you made this decision, or do you is there regret behind it? And when I was doing the other major, it got to the point where I felt like I was starting to regret it so much. For this one, the more I learn about it, I think it's very interesting, whole data analysis and stuff like that. It also comes off as a lot more stressful. It's a lot less stressful. Beforehand, I was doing cybersecurity engineering, and I was
bunch of like math and science classes, and it got to the point where I was like trying to like balance that and everything else I was doing, and I wasn't quite sure like for what point was I really doing it. And for this one, it's very interesting, like the reward of like when you're going through the Excel sheets or whatnot, and you're doing the big data analysis, like you're like you got like this much money, you saved this much money or something like that, or like you found like this error. Instead, like when I was doing the coding, it was like constant, like syntax errors and stuff like that, and it was like, I guess it's because of the fact that it was like very dry and boring to me, but this one is like a lot more interesting.
Yeah. I spent a big part of my career being an engineer in one capacity or another. And are there days that are stressful? Oh, yeah. There are lots of days that are stressful. But at the end of the day, did I believe in what I was doing, that it was going to result in a positive outcome or it was going to benefit the people around me? Absolutely. Why did I get into leadership? I'm in leadership because fundamentally I have the ability to positively impact people's lives. And that's what keeps me coming back, and that's what makes me smile. And when I look at the people around me who have positively benefited from that, that's what makes it worthwhile to come in every day. Does that mean that there are days that are still stressful? Absolutely. There are unreasonable deadlines and unreasonable expectations in every job, and that's just a part of the reality. But at the same time, I have had enough of those experiences to know that this is just another one, and I'm going to get through it, and it's going to be okay. And on the other end, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be great.
So just one quick point regarding the happiness thing. At some point in your studies, at some point in your career, like everyone at some point is driven by different things. At some point, you may be driven by technical knowledge. At some point later on, you may be driven by salary. You may be driven by work-life balance. You may be driven by family. At some point, everyone's driven by something. Simultaneously, I at some point have been solely focused on salary. At some point, I've been solely focused on developing technical skills. Actually, when I started at George Mason, I originally, when I was in high school, I had my own clothing line. I used to airbrush. I had my own clothing line. I had my own, and I was more interested in the artistic side of things, right? But I went into the computer science program because I thought that, that's going to make a good career. That will make my parents proud. That will make my friends respect me. And I was miserable because I just couldn't wrap my head around coding. I could get it done, but I would never have had any ingenuity. I would never have had any creativity because I was just doing it to get it done. When I switched to ISOM, the difference there was I kind of built my own path. There's kind of two paths. You have a more technical, data-related path, and then you have a technical management path. And what it has done is allow me to walk the line on two worlds that I like. I like the management and the consulting, and I like technical aspects. I'm not so deep into technical that I'm solely focused on that. But I can communicate technical topics to my management, and I can communicate what management says into more technical terms. So that makes me happy, is to be able to bridge these two worlds. So I think really what it comes down to is you just have to find like what it is that you like, but more importantly, I think you just have to determine what it is you do not like. For me, it was computer science. I was not a coder, so I would not have been a successful software engineer at that point because, to make progress, to make innovation, you need creativity. I would not have had that, stuffing myself into a box that I didn't fit into. So that should be something to consider. Is what drives you, what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like. If you don't want to pursue a technical degree fully, I would recommend that you don't consider it then, so.
The last thing that I'd like to chime in on is just, if you notice, there's a common theme here. It doesn't matter if you're a consultant or in accounting or in engineering or a startup or the federal government. The theme is don't be afraid to grind it out to get where you want to get. All of us do. It doesn't matter if it's a startup. It doesn't matter if it's the federal government. There are going to be good days. There are going to be bad days. It's work. It's work, right? But loving what you do isn't the same as your job not being fun. I love the impact that I made. That's the same thing that Will, says. I love that there's an opportunity that I can make that impact. There are perks of each of these things. But Jesus, last week I worked 128 hours. I don't have a manager that told me to do that. Right? I just had to. I worked 8 or 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. just about every day. Right? I didn't have a deadline. I didn't have something to do. It was just I had stuff to do. I had things to answer. And so that grind, you're going to set your own pace. You're going to set your own pace one way or another, whether you have a manager asking you to do it or you're just trying to do it yourself. My personal, somewhat biased recommendation is chase after the intrinsic motivators, the things that excite you or make you proud or, duty, responsibility, these things. Don't worry about the income or the title or any of that stuff. Just do the best damn job you can. Chase after the intrinsic motivators and do as much as you can. Take so much pride in it that if your manager doesn't see it, okay, fine. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think you heard. And by the way, thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate that. And Mario, thank you for sharing your story as well. I think that we talked about it earlier. We mentioned follow your passions. We mentioned fail fast, fail often. It is okay to try something and not be successful and learn from that experience and then go do something different. That's actually a positive thing. Don't ever see that as a negative. You're going to have those experiences often in your career, and it won't matter. I think the other thing to keep in mind is it's not going to matter how long you've been doing it. It's still going to have the potential to happen. You're going to be like, wow, how did I find myself here? This is not working. I want to do something different. And that's okay. That's okay.
If I can just throw out one thing, the words that I've heard here is that the work is rewarding, it's satisfying, it's fulfilling, you like it, you enjoy it. I didn't hear the word happy. It's not happiness. It's work. And the reason they call it work is because it's really not fun. It's satisfying and rewarding, but it's work. And like the Lord was saying, Mario, when I was doing coding, not what I liked doing, but it paid the mortgage, and to that extent, I was delighted. Yeah, it was fun solving those problems, but I didn't want to code either.
I think it's hard. To your point, Dr. Singer, it's hard. That's why you're getting paid to do it.
Yes.
There is a reason you're getting paid to do it. Now, there are days I would come into the office whether I got paid or not, for sure. There are days I'd rather be at home.
I don't know if there's days that I would have went into the office without getting paid.
There were years that I went into the office without getting paid. I think there was, we started this thing up officially in 2015, but I invented it in 2018. I don't think I took a paycheck for 4 years.
Man.
Yeah, it's a grind, but to the happiness point, what makes me happy is the challenge, right?
Yeah.
So one of the greatest lines is, what do you think an Olympic gold medalist does the day after winning the Olympics?
Sleeps.
No, he trains.
He trains.
He trains.
Yeah.
Because the challenge isn't against his opposition, his competition. The fight isn't with them. His fight is with himself.
Yeah.
He's trying to be better and better and better and better every day. That's the only thing that matters.
Happiness is, happiness is a matter of perspective. I think, what makes me happy may not be the same for anyone else. I will say, on the discussion, listening to everyone's backgrounds, the one thing I will say, regarding happiness, one thing that I believe everyone's technical experience, educational background exists on a spectrum. You can be kind of technical. You can be kind of management, somewhere in between. You can be very technical. You can be an innovator. Somewhere in there you exist on a spectrum of things. What does not exist on a spectrum is integrity. You have it or you don't. And if you don't, I will tell you, you'll be unhappy because every employer will be unhappy with you. Keep your word, keep your promises, deliver what you said you're going to deliver, even in school, do your homework, do the projects, come to class, things like that. Because I will say, though integrity is the one thing that either you have it or you don't. It does not exist on a spectrum, and without it, you will be very unhappy. I'm not sure what the definition of happiness is, but you will know when you're unhappy. So, just that thought there.
If there's one more question, going once. Go ahead. This will be the last question. Excuse me. I'll just have
so you guys
to
all focus on like from the interview and after prep. My question is actually before to get to the interview, because for one position, hundreds of people apply, but not all of them gets called for the interview. Probably only 5 people gets called. So my question is, why those 5 people gets called? Like something from the resume, and how do we to get to that 5 people? Because for example, we apply a lot of positions, but we don't get called for everywhere we apply.
Sure. Yeah.
So what's the thing that we should put, or what's the thing we should try to do to get to be called for the interview?
So
I'm the outlier. I mean, I can talk first. But,
go for it.
Don't wait to be called. Call me. Call us. Right? Do your research. Look into it. Show up at the offices. It doesn't really matter. I think several of our staff just happened to meet me or talk to me at a conference. I mean, so my head of business development is here. Where do we meet? Like some random meetup in Loudoun County, right? And it was like, I mean, it took him forever to decide, but I told him right then and there I was going to hire him. It's like, whoa, wait a second. I would say what I look for more than anything is ambition, right? That hustle. That I want somebody that isn't scared, that isn't waiting for permission. They're not trying to work within a construct in a box. Because, I mean, I want people that are constantly challenging, especially challenging me.
Yeah, so I think I like John's answer, and I think it's relevant for all of us, not just him. And so I think that work your resources, and don't be afraid to reach out directly to that person who you know is the person that is your prospective hirer or your prospective future boss. Contact that person directly. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. That ambition, that proactivity is one of the things I'm looking for. Yep. I'm looking for that passion. So, what did you do to differentiate yourself? And then when it comes time to actually look at your resume needs to distinguish itself in some way. So I have team members who wrote their own Android apps on their own. I have team members who've done all kinds of unique things that were not specifically, they didn't just follow the rule book and go to classes and make good grades and do your prerequisite internships every summer. They did other things that expressed themselves, things that uniquely showed their own character and drive and passion. And those are the things I was looking for on a resume. I was not looking for, this technical skill or that technical skill. And in fact, I'm here talking to y'all from our cybersecurity group. I talk to people who have varying different collegiate backgrounds. I'm not looking for somebody with a specific set of skills. There is negative employment in cybersecurity. I have got to go recruit somewhere else. And so I'm looking for people with all different types of skill sets, and I need people with all different types of skill sets because they bring diversity to the team. They bring lots of different thought processes and different skills, and we need them all.
Just a really quick hack for federal government stuff. Previous employee had brought something that I thought was really creative up. A lot of the federal government job listings will actually do a word search to sort of narrow out things based on their listing. Smartest thing I had heard for a while was that somebody had taken the job listing and they printed it out in their resume in white ink. Brilliant. brilliant because it comes up in the code, and you immediately are 100% match.
Except that when you submit those through an online portal, it strips out the white code, and then just you look like an idiot. So please don't do that.
This must have worked a while ago. I know it works for proposals, not RFPs. It works the first time. It worked the first time. Genius.
Please don't show up to our office and ask for a job. Unlike John, we don't hire that way. Yes, absolutely work your contacts. Networking events like this are fabulous. We do a lot of hiring from college outreach, college job fairs. Make sure to attend those. Present yourself well. We were looking for people who are well-spoken, people who have proven experience. It doesn't have to be job experience, but you use some of your courses. If you showed that you were able to do project A from, 1 to 6, and your results ended up being this, talk about that. Sell yourself in the fact that you have the ability to deliver, not just that you have a skill set. Yes, we can hire anyone who's a Java developer, but we want a Java developer who was able to troubleshoot this problem that had been nagging the system for 5 years. Or, we want to hire a Java developer who was able to take a vague requirement from the client and transform it into an innovative, interactive solution, things like that. In terms of getting your resume up to speed, I would highly recommend checking out the Ask a Manager blog. I think it's askamanager.org. She has really good advice on how to format your resume, how to write a cover letter, some of those basic skills that you're going to get a different perspective than you will from the Career Services office. It's people who are actually hiring managers who are looking at your resume and what they're looking for. So I would check that out too.
Yeah, most resumes, and the reason why a lot of resumes don't is how you're selling yourself. Employers, they get millions of resumes. They say provide it, support it, organized, things like that. What they're really looking for is like, okay, you organize something. How did that improve it? And that's what you really want to touch on. Something I did something that made something better. And that would be a different, even like Delora said, like in your coursework, I led the team project. I did this that improved this. I was part of this student association that, engaged with industry. I improved, membership or something that shows that you grew it, you improved it, you transformed it. You did something where, because of you, it was better than it was before. Those are the types of things that, make resumes stand out, but also make you stand out to people as well. I don't think you need to be the type of person that, runs up to a person and is just like, oh my gosh, look at me, look at me, look at me. I think humility, it plays a big part. I think ambition plays a big part, like, your drive. And people can get that from you. People can read that from you without you having to be extra about it. Like, oh, look at me. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did so many things. When really you did so many things, but what did you really do? Because that's really what, you're not going to hoodwink someone in a senior position with all the resume fluff, right? All the jargon and everything. They're just going to look right through that and be like, well, what did you actually do? One thing, like, that you actually did. Oh, well, I kicked up all this dust. Well, what's the one thing? So that being said, I hope that helps.
I don't think I had much to add, but just like I think of what Delora was saying. How do you solve a problem? Like, if I'm looking at your resume, are you going to solve a problem? Are you going to make life easier on a project, or are you going to improve some way that we can do business faster, better, that kind of thing. So it's a tough situation if you don't have that experience, or you don't you're not able to show it, but you are all of these things that these people are saying, like you're dedicated, you're this or that. I just don't have a job yet. but it's a tough problem. Maybe you're able to take some of the advice from Career Services here, or what Laura was saying, the other blogs or that to reformat what you've already got and present it in the best way possible.
Can I tell you, I think we're missing like one huge area, because we've been talking a lot about resumes, and I don't think anybody gets a job with a resume. No. Maybe occasionally, but it's pretty rare. You should be working your networks. You should be out there meeting people, getting to know people, know your audience. And I think the other thing is, every single day you are interacting with people. What is their experience working with you? What is their experience being around you? That's causing them to form beliefs about who you are, and that's going to cause them to take actions later. So they're either going to think, man, you are just awesome to be around. You are super positive and you get stuff done, and I have a really positive experience being with you. I want to hire you. And so you're building your brand all the time. I think also be cognizant of what you're putting out there on social media, because it's building your brand too. And don't tell yourself that companies don't look at that, because they do. Oh, yeah. They absolutely do. I think the other thing is, if you are not actively practicing getting to know people's names, that is absolutely huge. Cannot be underscored enough. And then know your audience. When you do get a chance to talk to somebody, know who they are, and know what ability they have to influence that positive outcome that you want. So if you're talking to somebody who just happens to work for the company you want to work for, but they're not in a position to influence you getting hired, that doesn't mean that they're not in a position to put in a good word for you. They absolutely are. They already work there, so they already have an inside track. So it's like, who do you know at the companies you really want to be a part of? I don't think I've gotten a job in the last 20 years with a resume. I've gotten a job because of who I knew.
I'd like to just close with a quote if nobody else has anything to say. But Mark Cuban had a great line that I think is apropos here, which is, everyone has the will to succeed. Few have the energy. Right? Do the work to get the job. Right? Learn the company's products. Don't be afraid to call them on what is bad, what is good, what solutions you have. That's amazing. And God forbid, if the company doesn't hire you and you just called them on a really big problem with a great solution, great. You're going to get a call back at some point. So I'm getting the...
No, I'm getting the signal from Career Services that we should wrap this up. I know we got room until 5 o'clock, but there's supposed to be some time for you to come up, speak to our guests on a one-on-one basis, and I encourage you to do that. Take advantage of their expertise, their willingness to talk. So I thank everybody for coming. Our distinguished panel, they've graciously come. They've given you their great ideas, their good advice, and I hope you have a good takeaway from all of this. Please come up and say hi. Thank you very much.
Hey, Brian. Internships we have available.
So what do you mean? Proclamation. That's really cool. Get on our company. Oh, do you guys like Oh, companies. Okay, right. Oh, really?
Excuse me? Really? Getting over in Delta?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pretty rigorous.
Okay, so you flew all of that.
Yeah, that's late.
Okay. Okay, before I provide that.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I thought it would be like out of pocket.
No, the flights are coming. You actually have to do a Y Southwest. Oh, the Y Southwest. Why you want to?
Oh, why? Okay.
We're very big on health. What's the motivation? We actually say hire for attitude and training for skills. Like, if you're from one Southwest, you probably got a bunch of friendly fighting training. We have like goofy viral videos. But yeah, so I did my resume. I had a computer business.
Are you, what's your major?
It was an IT.
Oh, okay. So what do you do? Are you with us?
Yeah, yeah.
So doing what?
What I do on a day-to-day basis, vulnerability management. We have a vulnerability evaluating risks for different servers or different business groups. Aircraft is all connected, right? They send data back to ground operations and securing that. We actually flew out to Boeing and their executives.
That's over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
About how best to secure the aircraft. We're actually the second largest airline in the world. We're also the largest. So we have a lot of data, and we're very, and we only fly 737. We only fly Boeing. We have the largest 737 Boeing fleet. Because of that, we're very, very closely partnered. Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about between Boeing and the FAA, looking at regulations, compliance frameworks. I also work with the credit card companies to ensure that it's not, for example, all the credit cards as a passenger, it's passport data. So my role on my team is kind of a blend of technical stuff and
So what kind of position are you guys interning in? Is it the summer?
We actually intern year-round.
Year-round, okay.
So coming up would be the
Oh, so, oh, okay.
yes, screen form.
Okay.
But you already got sure. You didn't bring any. I interned for the summer. That time was just one cybersecurity. Yeah.
Is it because of availability or is it just the market?
Okay. There's 110 now. Yeah, I think it's a small batch of 50,000. But now I know we have a couple more cybersecurity. So we have security engineering. So whatever kind of so I was actually I looked. Yes,
I was IT.
My major is ISOM. That's right. It's not cybersecurity. Oh, it's
There was like very little chance. That's true, but there's also a lot of the only thing that makes it worthwhile is the impact. It doesn't matter how much you like the job. Not only is it like the job, it's also you can love what you do and at some point you're like, totally worth it. Totally worth it. Yeah. I love playing. It doesn't work like that. I want to change something. I don't want to change it. The perks I do not actually I hire Dude, you're way better at that. Stop doing it. Yeah. But you know, you're actually really good at writing. God. Oh, I can't. Those are my. Oh, I want you to move the country. You know, what you would be all about math problems solved but still played out right. Ready to hire the right person, decide on buying this house, the right person. Spot better, more expensive than that parking spot down there. Is it worth the time? That is the way. If it does come down, actually, by far the hardest. That gets that one. That one, I don't know. Like, there's a little bit.
And pardon me.
I once spoke to I do not recommend that. I passed on basically at the time. But there's so much more to that. I'm sure we probably have some investment in the kitchen.
Yeah, actually, the blog meeting, I do have the blog meeting.
You pitch everybody pitch. Read everything you can about pitching.
That's like the worst thing.
That's how you basically would explain what it is.
No, I went into it just like anybody else. I had a problem that I sought and after I had thought, after many years of trying to find somebody else to do it, and then, you know, you kind of go down these paths and say, well, somehow seek revenue, investors or interests here.
I do think it's hard. Yeah. I'm not like, I haven't read it much on content, but the concept, the concept was and I was like,
Yes, you know why it's so secure? More secure because nobody. Yeah, literally the only thing that is secure is the hash. So the only thing that you're making sure that there isn't duplication. Everything else is
I bought peanuts too, although we don't give those out anymore. And then things
Are those airline peanuts?
Yeah, they are.
Wait, I want one.
Oh, you want?
Hold on.
Wait, airline peanuts?
Wait, I want
anybody else have anything?
Yeah, so I know you mentioned in the intro that you were
I work everything from Joe cards to club cards all in one. A little bit of a car guy. I was one of the top, if not the top engineer in the US.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been 15 years since my mother been
I'm a car guy, so I was just curious to see that part. Do you own any?
Yeah, so like, I work on Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, so like, that was and just another, like, again, I love getting the start contract. You mentioned, what do you guys think about how you study?
In college?
Wherever. I graduated high school with a .08 GPA, and I never spent a day in hell.
Oh wait, not point.
.08. But I had two businesses by the time I graduated. I was one of the top engineers in India. I was the youngest master mechanic in the world. Huh? I said, what's my answer?
I'm reassuring that, you know.
For me and anybody I genuinely don't. I want people to be good in there, motivated. I can still take my record, but don't have any problem failing and don't have any problem challenging and I want people that innovate and challenge all the time.
You already felt it. Really like
Yeah, it's definitely energy more than so this is actually backed up by physics as well, right? So every atom, every molecule, every particle in the universe vibrates. Everything oscillates at a certain frequency. And when particles get together and create other forms, those new forms actually take on more energy. They vibrate from there. Another portion of physics also explains that harmonic frequencies, light frequencies, attract. And they actually amplify when they attract. Just like frequencies. I want to talk about push apart or disrupt. So, having the right, having the